And we're back.
It's Wednesday. Welcome to Hot Topics.
Hey.
Hi.
So as you know, while the songs are playing in the background, I take that opportunity. I check everything. So this morning, I'm looking through my Facebook, so I'm in the East Coast still, so it's Atlantic time, and I'm looking, it says, Stacy Maynard's going to do live in like 16 minutes. And I'm like, no! So I realized that I did the wrong time zone. So I had to go in, change everything. And then, of course, so I went in and I checked the different places. But I realized in LinkedIn, I'm logged in as you. So I was like, why can't I find her feed on mine?
That's okay.
It's all good. So just letting you know I'm logged in as you.
Every time we change time zones, that's what happens. So how is the East Coast?
It is very rainy here.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, it's been raining a lot, like way more than normal. Like, yeah, like almost every day it's probably rained at some point.
Even in your fancy trip on the weekend, it rained?
It rained because it rained part during the day, and then it was like sunny at night, or it'd be sunny in the morning, and it rained like all Saturday, which was our only full day there. It rained all day.
So you were making some special liquid.
I was. So it was.
So what did you learn? What are you going to teach us?
Well, you know what? It was very fascinating. So the weekend it was at a distillery. So they actually teach you and you make your own vodka or gin. So they say on the site that you forage for your own ingredients.
Yay. So
what do you think of when you think of you're going to forage for your own ingredients?
Well, it's a forest, so you're going to pick, mushrooms and whatever you can find.
Right. Like that's what I thought too. But no, the foraging of the ingredients was just picking them off the dining room table or like a picnic table. Sorry.
That's not cool. Okay, you can forage in our forest. Our forest has lots of foraging.
Exactly. So it wasn't foraging, it was picking them off the picnic table.
Right.
But there was lots of options and stuff like that. But I think, so a few things I was fascinated with. Number one, you don't need a lot of space.
Right.
To make a lot of stuff, because I think for me, it was like, I was expecting this like big production plant, like huge bottling area. And no, it was like this big, because all you need is one big. So it was just kind of cool. So you like boil it, the vapors go through and then they cool it and then it drips out vodka, which is kind of cool because you put everything in. So it was funny because I guess I was overthinking it. And I think that's what we get into, right? We overthink things. So I have my ingredients, I smush them all up. And then I'm like, well, now what do I do? I was expecting something fancy. He's like, dump them in. I'm like, just dump them in. Like, okay.
That was it. And then you made bottles.
And then I made bottles. Yeah. So it was very cool. It was a very cool experience. When you're in sort of online marketing, you have to be a little bit careful of what you say, because all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're in marketing. Let's talk.
Oh, no.
But that's okay. I knew that their social media person wasn't local. Mm-hmm. I knew their social media person was not right there on site with them. I could just tell so I just sort of talked to the owner and I just said, like, I know they're probably from another place. They're definitely not on site. All of your stuff is very product focused and not experience focused.
Yeah, they have to, for a beauty product, it's a beauty product, right? Basically, you know what I mean? Beauty shots. You have to have somebody on site taking pictures. Like, that's all there is to it.
Well, and nobody really knows that they do all of these different experiences. Like, that was the thing that was fascinating to me, because I tried to look back on their social media because I wanted to know what to expect.
Yeah.
And I knew they had run it multiple weekends before. So I was trying to go back to their like Facebook or Instagram around that time that I knew they were running it before. And there weren't any pictures. So I just said, like, What's going on? And he goes, yeah, I guess I need to get better at that, eh? I'm like, mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem because, and everyone's guilty of it because we think everyone knows what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Exactly. So there's so much stuff that goes on there, and you would never know. Like Saturday night, they had a live band. Their kitchen was crazy busy. They weren't prepared at all for their so I think even they don't really know what
Right.
to expect sometimes, right? And how to prepare for that. So great hospitality. The people were lovely, super casual. So I think it's interesting depending on the type of person you are. And I don't know where kind of you fit into this category, but there's two very specific types of people, right? There's people who are, kind of fly by the seat of your pants, like whatever happens, I'm good, super casual. I don't like a lot of planning. I can, change plans on sort of a moment's notice. And then there's the other people, and I'm more fit into that category. And then there's the other people who are, I need to know the schedule. I need to know what's happening when. I need to be able to plan around this. What time is this? What time is that? So if you are that type of person that you need to have a very specific schedule, this is not the place for you.
Right.
Because he's super casual. He's like, do you want to go on a tour tonight? We're like, okay. He goes, what time do you want to start in the morning? We're like, I don't know. And he goes, well, the other people said 10. Does that work? Okay.
Yeah. I think, it's a challenge because, I'm like you. I just, whatever, just go with the flow. Whenever we're there and do whatever comes up. And I love that because I think then you get a different experience and it's kind of, but I also understand people that are very highly scheduled that don't like it because it messes with them. Right. And there's not one that's right and one wrong. It's just, you have to, you have to really understand who you are before you book something like that, right?
Well, and they said it was very difficult because what they like to do is kind of read the group, and kind of, and change up base, which I think is a fantastic way to do business. They're like, like typically on Saturday, you kind of do your 2 bottles and you're kind of done. But in our particular case, we took a little bit longer because we were asking questions. So he goes, well, do you want to break for lunch and then finish it in the afternoon and do your 2nd bottle then? And we're like, okay. So I think if they had a specific itinerary, it doesn't allow the flexibility to work with the people in the group and kind of just change things up based on the needs and everything. So
but there is also a fine line though, Stacy, because as you know, when you run workshops, there are people that have a tendency of monopolizing the conversations and the questions. And so you have to get them back on track. So there's kind of a, yes, it's free flow as long as you have your finite amount of time because, and the reason I say that is because let's say you have a workshop that's running from 9 to 3. Okay. As long as you stay within that confine, then I'm like, do whatever you want, but don't go over because someone else is monopolizing the conversation because that's not fair to somebody who's scheduled themselves that, they might need to go somewhere. So they need to be finished. So, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying, for those of you who want to stay, hang out, we'll do a tour, do whatever, as long as the required stuff is done. And I do have to respect people, with their time. So I get it. I mean, we're both kind of like, whatever, go free flow, but other people cannot handle that. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just kind of commenting that if you were that person, this might not be the best fit for you. However, they were very we knew what we needed to sort of accomplish by what time. They gave a lot of time to do it. So they build in a lot of flexibility into it. So they're just not that person. They're not those people. They're just not we're going to do this at this time, this at this time. We've got our schedule. We've got they build in flexibility, which I like, but when you're doing a workshop, sometimes that's not possible.
Yeah. I think, did you take any pictures or videos or anything?
A ton.
Okay. Yeah. I think so that's important for them too, because if you said, oh, I was doing this workshop, I really don't understand it unless I see it. And
so actually I was posting things on my story and tagging them specifically so the person who was doing their social media could share it and they could see because I was taking pictures and they were like, oh, can I have that picture? Can I have that picture? And I said, this is what you need to be showcasing because no one understands.
No. And
a lot of people don't like to book things they don't know what to expect.
And it's funny because I was doing some research on something that I want to do in the next couple months up here at the farm, and as I was looking at people's sites, I realized that like there wasn't any information. So it's interesting that you brought that up, because they would say, workshop on Saturday, August, whatever, and I was like, but I don't understand. Like, what does that do? What does it look like? Like, what do you wear? What do you like? What do you do? Where is it? Like, there wasn't any information, and I would say 90% of them had no information.
Yeah.
And the other 10% had information, but there was no real pictures or videos. And if you're doing something that's requires physicality, so making something, walking somewhere, doing something, a little snippet, even if it's a 30-second snippet of video, will make the difference as to whether I would book it or not, because then I can see what it looks like. So, there was one that I thought was interesting. So, they're not local. They were in Scotland. And anyway, so I still couldn't find any information. And then I saw, oh, she has a podcast. I'm like, okay, that'll tell me. And then I went to the podcast, and man, like, she talked a lot about herself and not a lot about what was going on. So again, she believes that everyone knows what she's doing, but don't really get it. So, I would have liked to see you forage on the dining room table. You know what I mean?
So I took a picture of the table and showed them, like, if I had understood that this is what you mean by foraging for ingredients, and I still would have.
And I wouldn't have worn my boots.
I wouldn't have brought my boots. I'm like, am I looking for pine needles, mushrooms, and like? Yeah.
Like that, that is an interesting one, because it's always, especially if you're doing something that you think is outside, like, tell people what to wear, like, I don't know, like, I'm learning as I go here at the farm, because, I don't know what I'm doing, but I learned that when it's wet out, you need to wear boots to go look at after the chickens. Yes. You can't wear your flip-flops. Right? Like, stuff, like, I know it sounds stupid, but like, when you're not, you didn't come through this environment, you don't know. And so, them making their spirits think that everyone understands. So it's not their fault. They just haven't been exposed to what, the requirement is for people to really understand. If you want to grow your business, right? Like, I mean, if you're happy with what it is and you're happy with, the people that you get, and that's where you want to stay, cool. Like, you don't have to do anymore. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? It was a lovely place. The cottage was amazing. The products were really high quality. I've tried some of my home brew, and it tastes great.
Good. That sounds like fun. It sounds like a really fun thing to do, right?
Well, it's something I've never done before, and I've seen, like, I've only ever seen, like, winemaking. Like, I understand the process, but it never occurred to me to understand the distillery process.
So. Right. And I would, go on to that, is the fact that I didn't know you could do it anywhere. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah. So I was like, of course, I told him I lived in Ontario, and obviously this was in Nova Scotia. So I'm like, so he says he was thinking of selling like really small steins, or really small, I don't know what they're called.
Yeah.
So that you could actually do it at home.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that would be cool.
Sure. It's a great product. That would be a great product. It would be fun. We could do it here at the farm. We could do our own distillery.
Easy.
Yep.
It's very, very cool. So yeah, so I learned a lot. So so that's the other thing, like, a lot of people, because we were talking, so I went with a friend. We've known each other literally our entire lives, but we had never traveled together.
Oh.
We've never gone anywhere. We've never spent the night together anywhere, except for our houses when we were kids.
Yeah.
And so we started talking about different traveling styles. And that was another thing that sort of came up, because it's like, well, are you the kind that likes to, say, party all night? Because it's an open bar. Like, I could have been literally fall down drunk for the 2 nights, but that's not who I am.
Right.
I had some drinks, obviously, because I tried everything. But I didn't really know if she would be. Like, I know back in the day, when we were really young,
when you
but
could handle it.
What kind of vacation do you like? What kind of things do you like to do? So I like experiences, whereas a lot of people just kind of like their vacation is like sitting on the beach. So we had a lot of conversations around would we travel somewhere together? Does this work? What kind of person are you? It was interesting because I think you need to have that conversation if you're going to travel with somebody.
Absolutely.
Have that conversation ahead of time.
Yeah, because you never know who you're going to end up with. I remember when I was doing my MBA and we did a trip to Southeast Asia, and you had to have a roommate. And I had a really quiet roommate, and really quiet, went to bed really early. And I'm not a big, I'm not out partying all night, but I had 2 little kids at home. It was, it was like, okay, at least stay out for a while, So, and she was great. There's no issue, but she was very different. So you had to like creep in, and it wasn't that I came in late, but she just went to bed really early. So, you have to know those things, and you're right. I'm a big, usually normally when I go away, I like to go to cities. So I like to go to big cities, Rome and Paris and, places like that, and explore. And, other people sit on a beach. So, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you're not a sit on the beach kind of person, it's going to be a very hard vacation for you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So
while you were making spirits, I had the boys. So we were up at the farm, and they were great. It's always interesting when you realize that they're big enough to help you. Then now they can move things. They have big muscles, and that really comes in handy. I love that. So I took them to hockey, and then we went to Shirkston Shores because we have a rental there. So I took them there for the weekend, and they were great. And now we're back up here because they have ball hockey. So it is, what was interesting though is in the midst of this, you guys know I'm moving and I'm doing some stuff. And so I thought all of August I'd be able to, sit tight and be able to get a lot of things done. And then his hockey schedule came out, my son.
Dun, dun, dun.
And I'm plugging it into, do you ever think, when you're like, I'm good, I got this under control, I got everything scheduled.
Never think that.
Google Calendar, everything's good. And I love Google Calendar. Big shout out to them. I know other people like that. And I'm a Mac girl, but I like Google Calendar better.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I've got it all done, and then his schedule comes out and I plug it in and I'm like, is there any hours for me in the month? It's crazy. But so you can't your first inclination is, I can't do this, right? That's your first inclination. Like, there's no way I can schedule. So for those of you, when get a bump in the road and things change, you just have to go with it. Like we just talked about, like going with the flow. So it was like, okay, so I'm looking at the schedule. I'm like, this week's shot. Okay, maybe I get Stacy to go take the boys up this week to the farm on her own because I can't figure it out, right? So, but anyways, as I was going, I'm like, it'll work out. It'll work out somehow or other. It'll work out. So even though your first inclination is this isn't going to work, it always will in the end. So, I'm sort of just at the peak. So today is like they got hockey today, we got ball hockey, and then we have to drive down tomorrow because he has an unexpected game. So again, best laid plans, but that's okay. You just have to, you can't get upset and you can't worry about things. You just have to roll with what is coming. And so for those of people who are, really like to stick to their schedules, I would feel sorry for them right now because they wouldn't be able to handle mine.
Well, and I think there's a lot to be said for building in flexibility into your life.
Yeah.
And for you, you've always had to build in flexibility into your life. Like, there's no way. Like, over the years, we're like, can you make it next week? You're like, dunno.
I have to wait till the day before. That's why.
The day of.
So these guys, in the midst of all this, these guys, for my birthday a couple years ago, took me to New York. And that was a total surprise because I couldn't go anywhere because I have so many responsibilities. But you guys worked it out with my daughter and worked it out with all the help. And everybody kind of pitched in and we went for a couple of days. And that was great. But I always say, like when you guys say you want to go something like Punta Cana, which is Linda's. And I'm like, I can't plan something 6 months out. I don't know if next week I'll be able to do anything. So,
but there are going back to, there are the planners.
Yeah.
And there's the people who can sort of, have flexibility built in. So I don't look that far in advance. I know I do put things in the calendar. I mean, you always say I'm always a maybe.
Yeah.
I'm a day
Always.
of decision because you never know what life is going to throw your way.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. You know, even my dad here has been really funny because he's like, so what's on the agenda for tomorrow? I'm like, well, I'm going to get up.
Yeah.
That's all I planned so far.
Exactly. Exactly. So
So
it's
except for
interesting,
flight.
but
I mean, obviously that's different. I have a flight tomorrow, so I know what time that is. So there are finite things
yeah, I
that we
mean,
need to
there's
plan
stuff
for
in your
sure.
calendar, you know, when we work on calendar planning, there's stuff in your calendar that you put in that are absolute, you must go, you must attend. I'm not saying that I'm totally flexible. I mean, I'm totally wait till that minute. I'm not. I have the calendar. It's the other pieces that you know, you can't necessarily fit in. And I think that's what people get stuck with, right? Because you know, you have to start with the I musts. Like I have appointments, I have, you know, responsibilities. Those things can't change. And I think where people get messed up is they start whining and complaining because they're like, oh, I don't have any me time. That's what they always say, right? I don't have any me time. I can't exercise. I don't have time to eat healthy, which is all a bunch of excuses. I mean, if you really want to exercise, you know, anytime in your calendar, do what I did, which is wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do it then. I'm not saying that's your great schedule, but maybe you can do it at 10 o'clock at night. Maybe you can do a half hour at lunchtime, right? And go for a walk. So there's always different opportunities. So, you know, I think it's just a matter of, you know, accepting the fact that, you know what, it's not like, you know, like when you see celebrities and all these people who have personal trainers and all this stuff, they don't have to do anything. They make a movie every couple of months, you know, and then the rest of the time they just sit around. So unfortunately for most of us in the real world, we work for a living.
Right.
So you have to adhere to, you know, what is required and then schedule everything, you know, on the side. So yesterday, you know, did everything I responsibilities, dropped the guys here. I had to go to the other place and get Gord ready and get organized. And I have to do this, go back there, come back because we have plans this afternoon. We have a live at 4 o'clock. And it's just happened. So when I got here last night, finally, after I finished everything, it was like, okay, that's when I started, as I said, searching for things like the girl in Scotland. So it was like 10 o'clock at night. But if I wanted to find the information, no matter how tired I was, that was the time I had.
Right.
So, you know, you can either do nothing or make use of it. And it's not like I was like, you know, at a desk. I was sitting on my bed with my laptop. It wasn't like, you know, hardship, but I got some useful information for an hour or two and it was worth my time. So if you really want to do something, you can carve out times. It might be 10 minutes here, half an hour there, but you can do it. It's just that as we know, you know, multitasking is bullshit, really.
Yeah.
Nobody can effectively multitask. In fact, it's Wednesday, right?
It is.
We have a summary in our book club about getting organized. Anyway, you can't, like, if you just carve out 10 minutes and do one specific task, you know, you'll get it done. But if you think you're going to do it on the side with everything else, not going to happen.
Exactly. And I'm a big proponent that multitasking doesn't exist. You either do something 100% or you do a few things at, you know, 50, 40, whatever the case may be. But you're right. It's about prioritizing. And I mean, calendar management is something that, I mean, you've been teaching for a very long time, putting things in so that you don't have to try to go, oh, right, I forgot to do that and not schedule it in. If you schedule it in, it's a priority. For people that do meal planning and prep and all of that, they carve out that time on the weekend. I choose not to. It doesn't, but I never use the excuse I don't have time.
Right.
I'm choosing not to do that.
Yeah. And that's
right.
like,
I'm making other things a priority.
And it's true because, like, I would love to be able to, you know, sit there and go, okay, this is what I want to cook for dinner Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I just don't have that as my priority. Do I have the time? Sure. Something else has to go. Right. So when I have that, the ability to flex and go, okay, that's now a priority, then I'll change it. But you have to accept the fact that, you know, right now something else is a priority to you.
Yeah. And that's okay.
You know, yeah. But you have to accept it. Right. So for those of people who say, I don't have time to, you know, exercise because it's not a priority. somebody who exercises daily, that's their priority. That's what makes that they need to do it because it makes them feel better, right? You're not prioritizing that because you might be thinking, well, you need to meal prep, or you need to read, or you need to do something, which is everything's fine. But like, make sure you understand what your priority is, and don't blame, no time. There's lots of time. It's just, what do you want to do with it? Right?
Everyone always has the same 24 hours.
Exactly. Some people accomplish a lot, right? And I'm very when I'm doing a task, I'm very focused. So last weekend when I was here, week I can't remember when it was, I was very focused on what I want to do, which was clean this entire room and make it functional. And I did not let anything stay in my way. I stayed up late. I worked hard, even though I was really exhausted and I was sore, and I still did it because that was what I wanted to do. And I did not want to leave without accomplishing it. So it was a priority for me that day. Right? And so when you have that in your brain, when you say to yourself, I really want to do this, do it, because tomorrow you might not feel like doing it. Right?
That's exactly. So be careful building in too much flexibility, because sometimes when you build in too much flexibility, it's too easy to kind of go, meh,
I'll do it next time.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Exactly.
I'll do it next week. So you do, so you're right. Like very back in the beginning, you said there is a line, making sure you accomplish what you want to accomplish with a little bit of built in. Yeah, you can't go too far in the flexibility, but I don't believe in going too far on the other side either, and being so stringent on your schedule that you can't waver from it. If something happens that messes it up, then you go completely into a tizzy, and that's not good either. So there is a line there, and you just need to know what your line is.
Exactly.
So, okay, well, have a great week. We are off to our study group, and just a really quick one, because I know we did our hot topics last Wednesday, and then we did our study group. I have to say, holy mackerel, people are raving about the study group. It is they had so much accomplished. They had a time to do it. It was scheduled for them to do it. We were there to answer their questions, make sure they were on track. Amazing, amazing feedback. So now we're like, today, there are even more people who are coming to the study group, because I heard what an incredible week it was what incredible time it was last week. So really excited. I love, it's funny for me because I get to see them and they pop in and what they've done. And this week is all about the signature message. So I'm really excited to see what they've come up with.
Yeah. And did everyone notice Stacy say, holy mackerel, like she's from the East Coast?
I've been here for 1 week. I'm already saying, well, I've never seen
mackerel. And everyone else is going, what's a mackerel?
That's actually really funny. I didn't notice that.
And you said it very East Coasty.
Very East Coasty. Holy mackerel, man.
I love it.
All right. Have a good week.
Bye.